Hey, I'm kind of curious about something. I want to check something before I really get going. So I want to ask you all a question. And for those of you watching at home, this question, you're invited to this question as well. I want to know from you. And if what I'm about to ask, for those of you at home, if it applies, just type in the chat "me," and that way you'll let us know that this applies to you. So here's the question. By show of hands, how many of you are human beings? How many of you know what it's like to be human? Okay, all right, good. I just want to make sure. I want to know who it is that I'm speaking with, you know. Because you are human beings and because we all know what it's like to be human beings, we know that life is full of what we call ups and downs. There are moments of joy, happiness, success, and triumph. And there's also moments of trial and challenge when things don't go quite the way we expect or things don't go quite the way we might want them to go. It's just part of the human condition. And so the invitation that we receive every morning upon awakening is, can we be present to the moments of our lives again today? For whatever happened yesterday, when I wake up in the morning, I have an opportunity to do it all over again. And if I'm very reflective on what happened yesterday, perhaps today when I wake up, I can show up better. I can be more present. I can be more available. But as we know, there are times when things don't quite go the way we want them to go, and it can weigh us down. We can have stresses and challenges on the job. We might look at the portfolio and the money is not aligning up to when I want to retire. We might get an unexpected expense. Our car might break down and it costs a little more than what we're wanting to spend. In other words, things happen. And sadly, many people are being very anxious and reporting lots of anxiety about the state of our world, the state of our politics, the things that are happening. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. So things that are happening that are weighing down spirits. And so in these moments, we always have an opportunity as far as how we are going to show up. We can't always change the things that are happening, but we can definitely have some influence as to how we show up and who we choose to be when we show up. So the invitation this morning is, in these moments of trial and challenge, we can either meet the moments with presence and awareness and an optimistic attitude to persevere and work through whatever is happening, or we can allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by what's happening. So we can either sink, S-I-N-K, or we can sink, S-Y-N-C. Now, I know we're used to hearing the saying that we can either sink or swim, and I got to really check myself so that I don't say sink or swim, but swimming is a part of sinking, S-Y-N-C-I-N-G. So we have a lot of choice as to the mindset and the heart set that we choose to meet these moments with. Now, when we think about the word sink, the first thing that comes to my mind is synchronized swimming. This is a sport that I've kind of gotten into recently, you know, with the last Olympics. And if you don't know what synchronized swimming is when you have a team of swimmers that have practiced a routine that they do together, usually to music, and they swim on a cadence. They make similar movements, or they move at the same time. And in those movements, they're either doing the same movements together, or they're each doing different movements, but the movements that they're doing have a harmony to them. And it's very beautiful and actually very calming to watch, because when they're moving together, and then they arrange themselves in the water to make different patterns They arrange their bodies to make stars and other patterns in the water, and they're moving at a cadence. As each cadence goes, they're all moving. Sometimes they're moving together doing the same thing. Sometimes they're arranging themselves into beautiful patterns in the water. So it's known as synchronized swimming. Key word there being synchronized. Root word is sync. The key here is they're doing it together. There is a harmony between all the swimmers on the team, and they move at the same time. That's what it means to be in sync. No, not the pop group. I'm talking about the word sync. Moving in a harmony, moving together, moving in such a way to where each one kind of reflects what the other one is doing. There's a reflective property there. So that's what we mean when we talk about sync, S-Y-N-C. And so again, in these moments that we find ourselves, oftentimes we need encouragement. Oftentimes we might not know what to do. Oftentimes, it's very confusing, and we might not know all of what's going on, and it can really weigh our spirits down. The invitation this morning is we can meet these moments in our lives, not that they don't trouble us, not that they don't burden us or stress us, but we can meet these moments with poise, with power, and with presence. That's what it means to be in sync. Poise, power, and presence. In other words, the challenging moments don't have to make us. We, in fact, can make the moments work for us, even though they're moments of trial and they're moments of challenge. Now, I want to be very clear about something. Because we go through these trying moments, often many people can find themselves believing that the spiritual journey, that when one consciously embarks on the spiritual journey, that means that everything in life is going to be lovely all of the time. It's going to be all love, all peace, all flowers and roses, all airy-fairy all the time. Now, you all admitted to me just a minute ago that you're human. And because you admitted that to me a minute ago, I know that you know that that's not true. I know that you know that there are often times where things happen that are unexpected, and it's just like, why did this happen? Why did that politician do that thing that I don't like? Why are those people over there behaving in ways that I don't like? Because after all, they are the ones that are causing all the problems in the world. And I, of course, in my self-righteous self, I'm good, I'm perfect. I don't have anything to do with all the mess that's going on. Yeah, right. When these moments happen, we don't have to succumb and fold to these moments. We can meet these moments again with power and poise and presence. And not that we don't get weighed down or are anxious sometimes, but when we know that we have the power to choose how we meet through these moments, even if we go through a momentary experience of being anxious, it can be exactly that, a momentary experience rather than being a place I take up residence in and I'm anxious all the time. I wake up and I'm anxious. When I relate to my loved ones, I'm relating to them from a place of anxiousness and upset. When I go on the job, I take that stress on the job and it affects how I work and it affects how I relate to other people. No, I can go through these momentary experiences of being anxious maybe, and then I can get back to a centering that will again allow me to operate from poise, power, and presence. When we look at scripture this morning, there's a beautiful scripture in the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verses 9. And that scripture talks about a very important key that allows us to understand what's really happening in these moments. It's challenging us to not be afraid or not be dismayed, because the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. The key there is the divine is with us wherever we go. Now, that sounds like a very high-minded statement. Let me really unpack that to break it down into digestible bits so that we can understand what that really means. What that means is that no matter what you do, no matter who you are, no matter where you go, I don't care if you go to Texas or if you go to Mars. There is no place where you can go where there is not a divine, the divine is not present. There is no place you can go where God is not. Here in Unity, we have a saying that wherever we are, God is. What does that mean? What that means is that all that there is in God is available where we are right now. So all of the beautiful attributes and divine ideas of God are present and have a presence right where we are. So if I'm in a space of hate, right there in that space of hate where I am, there is a divine presence of love. If I'm in a space of confusion, right there in the middle of the circumstance of confusion, there is a presence of light. Right there in the midst of not knowing what to do or not sure of how to operate, right there in that circumstance, there is divine guidance. Right there, there is a presence. No, you can't get an electronic instrument and measure it. No, you can't get some scientific equipment and try to discern this presence that's in the atmosphere. But that presence is there. And here's how I can know that it's there. I can simply take a deep breath. Because when I deep breathe, I relax. Ever notice how when we get anxious, our breaths get very, very shallow and we breathe very short because we're anxious? One of the beautiful things about meditation techniques is an emphasis on breathing, because as we breathe, we become more relaxed. As we breathe, we become more settled and centered. The very fact that we can do that means that there's some presence there beyond our ability to intellectually understand. Here's something else. You ever notice, again, you guys said you're human, right? No backing out. You ever notice that when things don't go quite the way you want them to go, your heart doesn't stop beating? Blood doesn't stop flowing through your body? You're still breathing most of the time unconsciously? So right there in that low moment, that is proof that there is a divine intention for life for you. That's what it means when we say that God is present right where we are. In all of the attributes of God, all of the power of God, all of the divine ideas, laws, and characteristics that make up what God is present right where I am, ready and available for me to breathe into, lean into, discern, tune into, tap into, so that I can have more of a perspective about what's going on that's troubling me, what's going on that's worrying me. This is why prayer and meditation is so important, so that we can perceive this presence beyond what our five senses say that it is to perceive. You're human, right? You ever notice that your five senses, your hearing, your sight, your smell, your taste, and your touch? Have you ever stopped to think about your five physical senses are perfectly designed to take in outside information, outside stimuli? Sometimes we can get into a mindset to where we perceive that all that my senses can take in is the reality of what's going on. Well, Jesus talked about this thing about doing righteous judgment. And basically what righteous judgment means is to understand that for all of what we see, there is something in the unseen that's going on behind it. If things are going on in my life, there's something going on behind it that is having an influence on the things that I see and the things that I experience. The main thing that might be going on behind it is our consciousness, is our heart-mind consciousness. The thoughts that we hold in consciousness can have a tremendous, and do have a tremendous insight and influence on how we see life, how we see ourselves, and how we see the world. So if I can really lean into the fact that, as the religious language goes, God has not forsaken me, i.e. that God is present right where I am, I can tap into that presence to be lifted in the moment of trial and circumstance. And how do I get lifted in the moment of trial and circumstance? I allow myself to breathe, first of all, so that I can get relaxed and centered. Second of all, I want to be able to look at things from a higher perspective. I want to be able to perceive God in the circumstance. And I want to be able to understand that to not make the circumstance the absolute overarching thing that's going on. Yes, the circumstance is happening. I can see the facts of the circumstance, but I know the truth that God is present. And I know the truth that depending upon my thoughts and feelings, I can lean into the God presence, and in my inner world, I can take on a higher thought about what's happening. So if I'm in a moment of trial and challenge in my life, I can either think about it in terms of why is this happening to me and what's going on and what is this doing to me? Or I can choose from a God perspective to say, what's being birthed right now? What's emerging right now? What does this situation present to me as an opportunity for me to grow, to expand, to rise above, to be uplifted? In other words, how can I take this lemon and make some very good lemonade out of it? But it all depends on how I choose to show up in the moment. And I choose, meaning I get the choice to choose how I show up. And I get the choice in terms of what I affirm. So right there in the midst of the circumstance of confusion, I'm going to affirm clarity and understanding. Even if I don't feel that clarity and understanding is right forthcoming. The more that I can affirm that it is there, the more that I condition my inner world to receive it when it comes. If I can affirm in the midst of the circumstance of hate that divine love is present, then although things may not feel necessarily loving, I start putting myself in a vibration of love, so when the circumstances happen that lend itself to love, I am open, present, and available to it. One day I wanted a used office chair. I wanted a used office chair for my office, and I didn't want to pay a lot of money for it. So I put that intention in heart, mind. So as I'm going about my merry way, I drive by a garage sale. And lo and behold, there was a beautiful chair that was almost new that I paid $2 for. If I didn't affirm having a beautiful office chair in the midst of the circumstance of not having an office chair, I wouldn't have been open to seeing that chair as I drove by. You know, it's like the saying that the person was stuck on the island and they said, God save me. Then a rowboat came by. Then a barge came by. And then a big ocean liner came by. And then it's like, God, why didn't you save me? All these watercrafts came by and came close enough to you where you could have did like this and they could have saved you. So that's what it means to have the consciousness of what it is that we want to manifest in our lives. So in the time of challenge and triumph, let us affirm that which is good for us. And I love the way that Myrtle Fillmore, I found a quote from Mother Myrtle, the co-founder of the Unity Movement, that really punctuates this idea of affirming what it is that we want, and you can see it there. You would not think of closing your eyes and walking around saying that you can't see and don't know where you're going. So why close your eye of omniscience by saying, I don't know what to do? Repeatedly affirm that you do know. That is the way to make your wisdom work for you and guide you on paths of plenty. So in the circumstance that's unloving, affirm love. In the circumstance where there's more month than it is money, affirm abundance. In the circumstance when you're not feeling your best, affirm wholeness and well-being. Because that divine intention for your life that is causing you to breathe, causing blood to flow, causing the sky not to fall whenever you're feeling in a low moment, that divine tension can be drawn upon to bless and flower your life. Now, that might sound like a fantastic claim, but again, you all admitted to me that you're human. And you watching, you admitted to me that you're human. And as a part of being human, we've all had trying moments that we didn't think we were going to make it through, that we didn't know how we were going to navigate through. And somehow, some way, we made it through. Somehow, some way, we're sitting here. Somehow, some way, we got to the other side to tell about it. That extension of grace is not just in our past. It's available for us right here, right now, just by breathing, affirming, and allowing for the flowering of our consciousness to come about so that we can experience the blessing. So be encouraged this morning. And one of the most important things that we can do, one of the most prayerful, sacred things that we can do, is ask for help when we need it. Ask for help. If I'm having trouble keeping myself from going under in a negative circumstance, why don't I reach out to a prayer chaplain? Why don't I reach out to a trusted friend? Why don't I reach out to a loved one who can come alongside me and lift me and know the truth of me when I'm struggling to know? Sometimes that's the most prayerful thing that we can do. So be encouraged this morning and know that there is always a way through. Be not dismayed. As always, I hold you all in very sacred space. And into that sacred space, I speak a wonderful word of prayer. Life, light, and love to you all. God bless you.